In this video, we're going to show what is it that we need to do to actually from QBN scan the Windows 7 machine. And to do that, we need to do several things. One is to prepare the machines to be scanned, whether it's Windows or Unix. And in this URL that you see here is all lowercase. You see in this document and also in this document, you will find all the detailed instruction on the steps that I'm going to be following here. We will also set up the scan profile in QBM, and we finally set up the XGS to make sure it doesn't complain about seeing the QBN scanner scanning the inside network. This machine with administrator password, and you need to have the administrator password later stored in the scan profile to be able to scan the machine. But the first thing that you need to do is make sure that you have the services required for this scan to work. And the important service here is the remote registry. This allows the QVM to actually peek into the registry of the Windows machine to determine many things about the particular vulnerabilities that exist there. And for that, this remote registry has several other processes. If you cannot start this one, make sure that you have the remote procedure call started, the remote procedure endpoint mapper started, and also DCOM and WMI started. The next step is make sure that WMI has the right access right to perform the scan. So you right click on local, you go to properties, you go here to security, you expand here on this side, you go into security, and you make sure that the group that you're using, in this case is administrator, that all these access rights are enabled. The documentation also called for another step, which is the auto shares. I did not have to do that, so that was probably enabled on my machine by default. But if your scan finishes too quickly or finds very little vulnerabilities, it might be that one of these steps that I mentioned before has not been properly done, or you need to do that third component as described in the documentation. So I'm here in QVM, and the first thing that I want to make sure is that I don't have any vulnerabilities from that particular Windows 7 machine, which is, I'm going to find it by name, it can be by IP address as well, Win7, add the filter and perform a search, and there's no vulnerabilities in there. So next we are going to here into the scan profile, and we have a scan profile here. Let me actually edit it to see the settings that I did to make that possible. So first is notice that this is not a full scan, it's just a patch scan, because after all, BigFix it's all about patching, so that's all we care. I specify the IP address of the target machine. I could specify a CEDAR range here, but I'm going to be scanning only that machine, and I use the administrator password that I set up here. All I need to do now is launch the actual scan, and to do that I just select the scan, and now I click on run. This scan is going to take couple of minutes, and that's a good sign because it needs to do all that mmap, all that inspection into the box. So I'm going to pause the recording until the patch scans finishes. The best place to see the result is actually clicking here on scan results, and then the screen refreshes after 1 minute, or you can actually manually click here on the refresh and wait until the scan finishes. After the scan finishes, the results are going to be sent to the BigFix new dashboard in BigFix, in the BigFix console. But there is a setting that you might be interested in. This is what I did on my demo. You can do on your environment whatever you consider appropriate. But if I SSH into the QRadar box and went into this directory, opt QVM adapter config, and in it there is an adapter profile, a file that you can edit it and make some changes. Let me show you the changes I made. I set the risk score on, you see these values here. The asset risk score minimum is 10.1 and the vulnerability risk score is also 10.1. And what I did with that is actually I don't want any vulnerability as it's found by just QVM to be sent to BigFix. What I want is Risk Manager to actually process. In this particular case, going to be a vulnerability that gets exploited, but it can be any of the very many things that Risk Manager can do to deem a particular vulnerability more or less risky, and then increase the risk score. In our policy, the risk score gets increased by 100%. So if we have a vulnerability that is, for example, 8 or 8.1, then it's going to be increased to 16.2, and then it's going to be sent. Anything below does not get sent to the BigFix console. Let's check on the scan progress and see how it's going. Still, it's 8 minutes, still going, so let's wait a little longer until it finishes. Finished, took around 9 minutes, and notice that these scans can take quite a bit of time on large networks. It's measured in days, hours, and minutes. So hours, it was a very specific targeted scan, and it just completed. Let me refresh here, and we see that it found 1,400 plus vulnerabilities. Now, if we go back to the screen that we were before, and we perform the same search, we do a search on hostname WinNT, which is that particular machine. We find all those vulnerabilities here. The particular vulnerability that we decided to exploit in this demo is one that actually the X-Force found as a zero-day vulnerability that those X-Force guys found months before it was actually published. So they noticed that this could be exploited, develop a patch. Those who have the XGS appliances and apply the patch were protected from it by the time that it was actually announced. And that vulnerability is 2014 6332. So we apply that filter, and yep, it surely found that. And this is the Microsoft Oli remote execution, and we can actually see here what I was saying before, that the XGS, the Proventia, which is the name for the patches in the metadata as gets published from the National Vulnerability Database, specified that we have a signature for that. And actually here's the QRadar QID, and it's interesting to see that the guys from Fortinet just copy our vulnerability and made it available for the IPS as well. So, but here you see all the signatures that can stop this particular vulnerability. The final thing we need to do here is go into the XGS and tell it not to complain when it sees the QRadar scanner. And we actually did that. I just want to show you those steps. Otherwise, you get a lot of events being sent by that. So I go into the security secure policy configuration, network access policy, and in here this is the actual policy that we specify. We made it first to be evaluated and said do not inspect when the source is the QRadar. that we defined before. So